If your penis no longer gets hard in the morning, if you wake up feeling weaker, slower, and somehow less like the man you used to be, then what I'm about to tell you may shock you, because the problem isn't age, it isn't low testosterone, it isn't even circulation. The real problem is that every single morning, your body is silently shutting down a little more, and no one has ever told you why. For so many men over 60, this decline feels like a private humiliation. You want intimacy, but your body doesn't respond. You want energy, but your legs feel heavy. You want to feel like a man again, but something inside you feels dimmed. And no matter how hard you try to ignore it, the fear grows louder. What if this is the beginning of the end? But here is the paradox. Your body is not failing. It is waiting. Waiting for one simple morning change that can flip your vitality back on in as little as 24 hours. And before I reveal exactly how to do that, you should know who is speaking to you. My name is Dr. Mohit Kara, and I have spent over 30 years helping men reclaim their strength, their confidence, and their manhood. Before we go any further, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now so you never miss another message designed to protect your strength and vitality. And if this opening speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 0 and tell me what you need. Now, with that out of the way, let's dive into what's really happening inside your body after 60 and how to turn it around. 1. The silent decline after 60. Most men don't realize the moment it begins. There isn't a warning sign, no loud alarm, no sudden collapse. Instead, it happens quietly, so quietly that you don't even notice it until one morning you wake up and something feels off. Not painful, not dramatic, just off. A little less energy, a little slower rising from bed, a little more hesitation when you look at yourself in the mirror, and somewhere deep inside, a whisper you try to ignore. Something is changing. For many men, the shock comes the first time their body doesn't respond the way it always did. Not during anything intense, just a simple moment of desire, a moment that used to feel effortless. Suddenly, the spark isn't there. The firmness you relied on feels unreliable, and you try to laugh it off, call it stress, call it fatigue, call it a fluke. But in your chest, you feel a quiet ache, because you know it wasn't just a fluke, and that small moment becomes the beginning of a fear no man ever wants to admit. This is the silent decline, the one that creeps in after 60. It doesn't hit like a hammer, it settles over you like a fog. You start noticing tiny changes. You walk a little slower. Climbing stairs feels heavier. Your morning energy fades quicker. You lose muscle you didn't even know you were losing. Your heartbeat feels softer. You're breathing a bit shallower. But even then, you tell yourself it's fine. You tell yourself it's normal. You tell yourself that every man goes through this and that you should just accept it. But acceptance is not the same as peace. You can say you're fine, but deep down you feel a subtle grief, a mourning for the man you used to be. What makes this decline so cruel is not the physical change, it's the emotional weight. It's waking up and not feeling ready for the day. It's wanting intimacy but feeling disconnected from your own body. It's remembering who you were in your 40s and feeling like that man lives in another lifetime. And sometimes the hardest part is pretending nothing is wrong. You smile, you carry on. You tell your partner you're tired. You tell your doctor you're fine. You hide the frustration, the embarrassment, the fear. You hide it so well that even the people closest to you rarely see the truth. But you see it. You feel it every morning. The slow drift away from vitality, from power, from the sense of self that made you feel alive. Yet here is the part most men never hear. This decline is not inevitable. It is not a punishment for age. It is not a sign that your masculinity is fading. It is a signal, a message from your body that something vital is missing. A message that your cells, your blood vessels, your heart, and your hormones are asking for help, asking for nourishment, asking for renewal. And the moment you understand that, the moment you stop blaming age, something inside you shifts. Because decline is not destiny. Weakness is not written into your biology, and feeling less like a man is not the final chapter of your story. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s reverse this silent decline completely. But before they reversed it, they had to first recognize it. They had to look honestly at their fatigue, their fading stamina, their quiet frustration. They had to admit the truth not with shame, but with courage. Because courage is what opens the door to transformation. Courage is what wakes up the body. Courage is what allows a man to reclaim what he thought was gone forever. If you feel yourself in these words, if you recognize the subtle losses, the private disappointments, the quiet fear, then you are not alone. Not even close. Thousands of men your age feel exactly what you feel. And thousands of them have already discovered that their decline was not a dead end. It was a turning point. Because something remarkable happens when you understand why this decline begins and what your body has been missing all this time. The moment you uncover the simple morning secret that restores blood flow, energy, and masculine power, everything changes. And that brings us to the next part of this journey, where I'll show you the surprising morning combination that men around the world have used for centuries to stay strong, energetic, and fully alive long past 60. 2. The ancient morning duo, beetroot and ginger. Most men never imagined that the answer to their fading strength could be sitting quietly in their kitchen, ignored for decades. It shocks people when I tell them that some of the most powerful solutions for male vitality were discovered long before modern medicine existed, not in expensive clinics, not in high-end supplements, but in simple roots pulled from the ground, used by ancient cultures who somehow understood the male body more deeply than we do today. And yet, these foods are so ordinary that most men walk past them in the grocery store every week, never realizing that they hold the power to restore everything age has tried to take. The truth becomes even more striking when you learn how many ancient societies relied on beetroot and ginger as daily morning rituals for strength, endurance, and virility. Warriors, farmers, elders, laborers, all of them turned to these foods before facing the day. They believed that if a man wanted to stay strong, he had to begin each morning by feeding his blood first. And they were right. Blood is life. Blood is energy. Blood is masculinity. When it flows well, you feel alive. When it slows, everything you value begins to fade. Your strength, your stamina, your mood, your erections, even your sense of purpose. That is why this duo was valued so deeply. It nourished the blood in ways nothing else could. Beetroot, with its deep red color, was often called the root of life, not for poetic reasons, but because men felt its effects immediately. It opened their chest, warmed their limbs, sharpened their focus. Ginger, with its fiery scent and heat, was seen as a spark, something that woke the body from the inside, stoking energy like a flame rising through the bloodstream. Together, these two ingredients became a morning foundation for men who needed their bodies to perform, whether in battle, in work, or in intimacy. I remember a patient named Robert, 71 years old, who came to me with the tired eyes of a man who had carried disappointment for too long. He told me he had tried pills, powders, drinks, anything that claimed to bring back his vitality. Nothing worked. There was a heaviness in his voice, the kind that doesn't come from fatigue alone. It comes from losing trust in your own body. When I introduced him to this ancient morning combination, he looked confused. He expected something complex, something expensive, something modern. But sometimes the simplest solutions are the most powerful, and they're often the ones we overlook because they seem too ordinary to matter. What happened next surprised even him. Within days, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. A quiet surge of energy in the morning, a feeling of lightness in his chest, a sense of warmth spreading through his body. 2 weeks later, he told me he woke up with a firmness he thought he had lost forever. The relief in his voice was unmistakable. The gratitude was overwhelming. And beneath it all, there was something even more important. Hope. Real, living hope. That is what this duo offers. Not just energy, not just circulation, not just stronger erections. It offers hope. The belief that your body can still respond, still heal, still rise. Beetroot feeds the blood. Ginger awakens it. Together, they remind your body how to be alive again. But what makes them truly extraordinary is not simply their history or their cultural significance. It is the science behind them, the measurable changes they create inside aging blood vessels, aging hormones, and aging cells. When you understand what these foods actually do once they enter your bloodstream, the picture becomes even clearer. These ingredients were not just chosen by tradition, they were chosen because they activate powerful biological processes that most men over 60 desperately need. And that brings us to the next part of this journey, where I will show you exactly why beetroot has become one of the most studied natural solutions for male vitality, and how its hidden chemistry can help restore what aging has slowly taken away. 3. The science behind beetroot. Most men would be stunned to learn that one of the strongest natural boosters of male performance isn't a pill, a supplement, or a medication. It's a root that has been sitting in grocery stores for decades, unnoticed, untouched, and underestimated. What shocks people even more is that beetroot triggers the same biological pathway that pharmaceutical companies spend billions trying to imitate. And yet, countless men walk past it every week, never knowing they're ignoring one of the most powerful tools for restoring blood flow, strength, and sexual vitality. Beetroot is not just another healthy food. It is one of the most remarkable circulatory enhancers ever discovered by science. Its deep red pigment hides a secret that becomes even more significant as a man ages. Inside that vibrant color lies one of nature's richest sources of dietary nitrates, compounds your body desperately needs but struggles to produce on its own after 60. These nitrates are not weak, they are not subtle. They do not take months to work. They convert inside your body into nitric oxide, a molecule so essential to male performance that without it, erections become weak, blood flow becomes sluggish, and energy collapses long before it should. I often describe nitric oxide as the language your blood vessels speak. When you are young, they speak fluently, they open wide, they stay flexible, and they respond instantly to desire, movement, excitement, and emotion. But as you age, your arteries forget how to open. They become stiff, narrow, resistant. Nitric oxide levels fall sharply, sometimes by more than half after the age of 60. And once that happens, everything changes. You feel heavier walking up a hill. You feel fatigued even after light activity. Your heart works harder for less reward, and the most private parts of your body stop responding the way they used to, no matter how strong your desire remains. This is where beetroot becomes extraordinary. Beetroot doesn't just support the circulatory system, it revives it. It teaches your arteries how to open again. It reintroduces nitric oxide back into your system like a spark that reawakens the entire cardiovascular network. Men often tell me they feel this change before they can explain it. They say their chest feels lighter, their breathing feels deeper, their legs feel less heavy, their mind feels clearer, and yes, their erections begin returning with strength they thought they had lost forever. I remember a patient named Daniel, 70 years old, who came to my office exhausted, frustrated, and worried that something inside him was dying. He told me he felt trapped inside a body that no longer cooperated. He tried beetroot hesitantly, almost skeptically, expecting nothing. But within a couple of weeks, he felt something shifting inside his chest, a sense of openness he hadn't felt in years. Soon after, he noticed a firmness returning in moments when he thought intimacy was no longer possible. And when he told me this, there was a tremble in his voice, not from embarrassment, but from the realization that his body wasn't failing him after all. It was waking up. Beetroot doesn't force anything. It restores what was already there. It reminds your blood vessels of their purpose. It gives your heart the support it has been silently begging for. Most importantly, it restores the communication between your brain, your heart, and your most private organs, communication that had grown quiet with age. But the science becomes even more compelling when we examine how beetroot works together with other natural ingredients. Ingredients that don't just complement its effects, but amplify them in ways most men never imagine. One in particular has the power to ignite hormone balance, raise energy, and fight inflammation at its root, creating a synergy that transforms the aging body from the inside out. And that brings us to the next chapter of this journey, where we uncover the remarkable strength of this second ingredient and why men over 60 often feel its impact faster and deeper than they ever expected. 4. The power of ginger. Most men would never believe that something as small and ordinary as a piece of ginger could change the way their entire body feels. They'd never imagine that this simple root, something tossed casually into tea or cooking, could hold the power to lift fatigue, restore energy, and reignite the very masculinity they thought age had taken from them. But what shocks men even more is discovering just how deeply ginger influences the two things aging attacks the most: hormones and circulation, the very foundations of male vitality. For many men over 60, the decline doesn't begin with pain. It begins with a slow quieting of the fire inside. The mornings where you feel slower rising from bed, the days where your motivation slips, the moments where desire is present but your body doesn't respond. These changes feel subtle at first, almost harmless, but over time, they become a weight you carry everywhere. A weight that tells you something inside is dimming. Something that once burned bright now flickers low. Ginger is one of the few natural substances that speaks directly to that fading flame. Ginger has been used for centuries as a warming root, but its warmth does more than comfort the stomach. It awakens the body. It stirs blood flow. It accelerates healing. It supports the endocrine system, which controls testosterone production. Modern research confirms what ancient healers understood intuitively. Ginger nourishes the very mechanisms that keep a man strong, energetic, and responsive. It helps the body create testosterone more efficiently, not with artificial stimulation, but by supporting the glands and pathways that naturally drive hormone production. For older men, this gentle support is often far more powerful than any pill, because it works with the body, not against it. I remember a man named Harold, 69 years old, who told me he felt like his energy had been slipping through his fingers for years. He wasn't sick. He wasn't weak. He was simply tired in a way that sleep no longer fixed. When he added ginger to his morning routine, he didn't expect much. But within days, he felt a subtle awakening, a warmth spreading through his chest, a clarity settling into his mind. He described it as a quiet return of strength, not explosive, not dramatic, but steady and reassuring. A reminder that his body still had life to give. And ginger's effects don't stop with testosterone. It reduces chronic inflammation, one of the most damaging forces affecting men as they age. Inflammation stiffens blood vessels, slows movement, blunts energy, and interferes with erections. Ginger works from the inside to soften these barriers. It allows blood to move more freely. It allows the heart to pump with less strain. It allows oxygen to reach the tissues that depend on it most. Men often tell me they feel this before they see it. They feel their chest loosen. They feel their breathing deepen. They feel a calmness that hadn't visited them in years. Yet what makes ginger truly remarkable is how quickly men feel its effects when combined with beetroot. Beetroot opens the pathways. Ginger fuels them. Beetroot activates circulation. Ginger activates hormonal fire. The two together create an internal environment where strength can return naturally, not forced, not synthetic, but real and long-lasting. Many men come back to me saying they not only feel physically better, but emotionally lighter, more engaged with their partner, more confident in their movement, more present in their daily life. Ginger has a way of reaching into the deeper layers of a man's health, the layers where fatigue, frustration, and quiet fear settle in. It reassures the system. It nourishes it. It reminds the body that vitality is still possible, still reachable, still waiting to rise again. And once that inner fire begins to rebuild, everything else begins to change. Mood, energy, motivation, desire, and the quiet inner confidence that many men miss more than anything else. But the most powerful part of this story is what happens when these two ingredients, beetroot and ginger, combine inside the aging male body. The transformation they create together goes far beyond what either can achieve alone. And that brings us to the next chapter, where we uncover the true synergy behind this morning ritual and why men who try it often say the results feel almost unbelievable. 5. The synergy, how they work together. What shocks most men is not what beetroot or ginger can do alone, but what happens when they enter your body together. If you've ever wondered why some days your body feels completely drained, while other days it feels alive and capable, the answer often lies in whether your blood vessels and hormones are working in harmony. And that harmony is exactly what aging disrupts. But here is the part almost no one ever tells you. One simple morning combination can restore that harmony in a way that feels almost like your body remembering how to function again. Many men expect decline after 60 to be a straight path downward, but decline is rarely caused by one failing system. It's the breaking of connection between systems. The moment your blood flow weakens, your hormones struggle. The moment hormones weaken, energy drops. The moment energy drops, desire fades. It's not one issue. It's a chain reaction. That's why so many men feel lost when trying to fix their health. They treat symptoms instead of restoring the connection that holds everything together. This is what makes the synergy of beetroot and ginger so powerful. They don't treat symptoms. They restore the connection. When beetroot enters your body, it opens your arteries, feeding your bloodstream with nitric oxide, allowing blood to move freely again. This surge of circulation is not subtle, it's not symbolic, it's real, measurable change. And when that blood flow reaches your muscles, your heart, your brain, and your most intimate organs, something inside you begins to wake up. But blood flow alone is not enough. Your body also needs hormonal fire to sustain energy, drive, and performance. This is where ginger steps in, supporting testosterone production, reducing inflammation, and bringing warmth back into the system. Together, these two ingredients create a kind of internal symphony that aging often silences. Beetroot clears the path. Ginger fuels the engine. Beetroot expands the vessels. Ginger strengthens the signal. Beetroot opens the door. Ginger invites the energy forward. It is this pairing, this biological conversation, that brings men results that feel almost unreal. Not because the ingredients are magical, but because they restore the natural cooperation your body once had effortlessly. I once spoke with a man named Lewis, 72 years old, who told me he felt like his body had turned back on after years of feeling disconnected from himself. He said it wasn't dramatic at first, just a sense of lightness he hadn't felt in decades, then clarity, then steadiness, then desire, and finally, something he thought he would never experience again. The sense of being strong in his own skin. He told me, with a tremble of emotion in his voice, "Doc, I didn't realize how much I missed feeling alive until it came back." That is what synergy feels like, not forced improvement, but natural restoration. Another patient, Arthur, described it as his body remembering how to breathe. He had spent years feeling heavy, tired, and frustrated by the slow decline he thought he simply had to accept. But within weeks of combining beetroot and ginger, he felt something shift. His steps felt lighter, his posture straighter, his mornings brighter. And the part that touched him most deeply was the return of confidence. Not boastful confidence, but the quiet internal certainty that he was still a capable, vibrant man. This synergy also affects the emotional life of a man, something few discuss openly. When blood flows better, the mind clears. When hormones rebalance, the mood lifts. When energy rises, the spirit opens again. Men begin reconnecting with their partners not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire. They begin moving through life with a steadier presence, a deeper grounding. They begin to feel like themselves again. Beetroot and ginger do not create youth. They unlock strength. They reveal what aging tried to hide. And for many men, that rediscovered strength becomes the foundation for rebuilding every part of their lives, physical, emotional, and intimate. But as powerful as this synergy is, it only becomes truly effective when prepared the right way, at the right time, in the right form. And that brings us to the next step, where I'll show you exactly how to create this morning ritual so your body can absorb every ounce of its transformative power. 6. How to prepare it. Most men are shocked when they discover that a morning ritual capable of restoring energy, strength, and sexual vitality doesn't require a prescription, a complex routine, or a long list of ingredients. What surprises them even more is realizing that something so simple, so ordinary, can create changes that years of frustration, embarrassment, and silent suffering never could. Many expect the solution to be complicated because their struggles feel complicated, but often, the most profound transformations begin with the simplest steps, steps that reconnect your body to what it has been missing for years. When I first began recommending this morning combination to my older patients, they would stare at me with disbelief. Some even laughed gently, thinking I must be joking, but there was no joke. I was offering them a chance to feel alive again, using ingredients they already knew, ingredients their bodies recognized instantly. And once they tried it, once they committed to giving their body this nourishment each morning, they began to understand why simplicity is sometimes the most powerful medicine. Preparation begins not with the ingredients, but with intention. The intention to reclaim your strength. The intention to show up for your body. The intention to no longer live each day feeling like a dimmer version of the man you once were. This ritual is as much about honoring yourself as it is about feeding your cells. And when a man chooses to honor himself, something shifts inside him, something deep, something steady, something hopeful. The practical steps are easy. Start with half of a medium beet, raw or lightly cooked, or blended into a smoothie. Beetroot needs no elaborate treatment. Its power lies in its purity. Add a small piece of fresh ginger, about a teaspoon grated or sliced. The ginger doesn't need to be fancy or exotic. What matters is its freshness, its warmth, its ability to ignite the system from within. Blend them with a little water, or juice if you prefer, and drink it before breakfast. That timing matters. Morning is when your body is most receptive. Morning is when your nitric oxide levels are lowest. Morning is when testosterone is naturally highest. Morning is when your cells are hungry for oxygen and nutrients. Morning is when your body is ready to change. But even though the steps are simple, the meaning behind them is profound. When a man begins each day by giving his body what it truly needs, the body responds with gratitude. You may notice subtle changes after the first few days. A lighter feeling in your chest, a little more energy when you rise from bed, a calm clarity that doesn't feel forced. After a week, you may notice your breathing deepening, your mind sharpening, your steps feeling more deliberate. After 2 weeks, something else happens, something men often whisper to me because they're almost afraid to believe it. Their morning erections return, not weak, not tentative, real, noticeable signals that their body is responding, awakening, remembering. This ritual works not because it is magical, but because it restores the natural processes aging has slowed. It brings blood flow back to the tissues that need it. It awakens hormone pathways that have grown quiet. It cleanses, nourishes, and fuels at the same time. And the best part is that your body does the rest on its own. You are not forcing anything. You are simply giving your body the tools it needs to heal. One man told me that preparing his beetroot and ginger drink each morning became the moment he reclaimed his life. He said it felt like lighting a match in a dark room, small at first, but enough to show him that the darkness wasn't permanent. Other men describe it as a quiet return of confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be spoken, because it is felt deeply, personally, intimately. And once a man experiences this shift, once he feels this ritual working inside him, he often begins to wonder whether anyone else has felt such a transformation. He begins to realize he is not alone, that many men before him have walked this same path from decline to renewal. And that brings us to something equally powerful, the real stories of men whose lives have changed because they gave their body this one simple chance each morning. 7. Real-life transformations. What shocks most men is not the science behind this morning ritual, but how quickly it begins changing the lives of those who try it. Some men expect nothing. Some expect disappointment because disappointment has become familiar. But what they don't expect is waking up one morning feeling something they haven't felt in years. A little spark of energy, a little warmth in the chest, a little strength returning to places that had gone quiet. The real transformations are not dramatic at first. They begin like a whisper, a gentle reminder that the body is still capable of healing, still capable of responding, still capable of becoming alive again. I've listened to countless men describe the heaviness they carried before starting this ritual, the heaviness of fatigue, the heaviness of shame, the heaviness of wondering whether the best parts of life had already slipped away. One man, Michael, 66 years old, told me he used to sit on the edge of his bed every morning wondering how he would get through the day, not because he lacked strength, but because he lacked hope. He said every part of him felt slower, weaker, older, not in years, but in spirit. When he began the morning combination, he did it because he had nothing left to lose. What he didn't expect was how quickly his body began to respond. Within days, he noticed his morning sluggishness lifting. Within a week, he felt a brightness in his mind he hadn't felt in decades. And 2 weeks later, he wrote me an email with a single line in the subject: "It's working." In his message, he told me that his wife had commented on his smile, something she hadn't seen genuinely in years. Moments like these mean more to me than any medical chart ever could. Another man, Arthur, 73, came to me convinced he was too far gone. That was the phrase he used, and I could hear the resignation in his voice. He said he had accepted slowing down as his fate, accepted that intimacy was behind him, accepted that energy was something only younger men deserved. I handed him the simple instructions for the morning ritual. He looked at the paper and laughed softly, saying, "Doc, it can't be this simple." But it was. And when he returned 1 month later, he sat taller. He spoke with strength. He told me he felt like the engine was running again, and the pride in his eyes said more than words ever could. He didn't just regain his energy, he regained his identity. Then there was Harold, a man who entered my office with a tiredness I could feel the moment he spoke. He said he felt like life was moving faster than he could, like he was trying to catch up to the man he once was, but every day the distance grew wider. After starting the ritual, he called me 3 weeks later with a trembling voice. He said he woke up that morning and felt something he hadn't felt in nearly a decade: desire, strength, presence. He said it didn't feel like youth returning, it felt like himself returning. These transformations are not rare, they are not exceptions. They are the natural response of a body finally receiving what it has been missing. And the most beautiful part is that these changes ripple outward. Men tell me they laugh more, they walk farther, they talk to their partners with warmth and interest. They reconnect emotionally before they reconnect physically. They begin living again, not surviving, not getting through the day, but truly living. And yet, these stories are only the beginning. Because what happens inside the body when this ritual becomes consistent is far more profound than any single transformation. There is a biological awakening taking place underneath every success story. A shift in blood flow, hormones, cellular energy, and neurological signaling that explains why men feel so different so quickly. And to truly understand the power of this ritual, you need to know what is happening beneath the surface, deep inside the male body once the healing begins. 8. What happens inside your body? Most men have no idea how close they are to feeling alive again. They think recovery takes months or years, but the truth is that the body begins changing the moment you give it what it has been starving for. I've seen men go decades believing their energy was gone, their masculinity fading, their strength slipping through their fingers, only to discover that their body was never broken. It was simply waiting. And the shock comes when they realize how fast the internal shift begins, often within the first 24 hours. Inside every man over 60, there is a quiet battle taking place. Blood vessels tighten, inflammation rises, hormones weaken. Cells produce energy more slowly. Desire still lives inside the mind, but the body cannot respond because the systems that once worked in perfect coordination have grown disconnected. This disconnection is the true source of decline, not age itself, but the fading conversation between the heart, the blood, the brain, and the male organs that define vitality. When the morning ritual begins supplying the body with nitric oxide from beetroot and hormonal support from ginger, that conversation slowly returns, and the effect is not subtle. The first change happens in the blood. Blood that once felt heavy and slow begins to move more freely. Oxygen reaches places where it hasn't flowed fully in years. Tissues that have been quietly suffocating begin receiving life again. Many men describe this as a lightness, a softening of the chest, a deeper, easier breath. They can't explain it scientifically, but they feel it. It's the body awakening from a long sleep. Then something remarkable happens in the brain. When blood flow increases, the mind clears. Thoughts sharpen, old mental fog lifts. Men tell me they suddenly feel more present, more aware, more themselves. The emotional weight they carried, fear, frustration, embarrassment, begins to loosen. The mind and body start communicating again, like two old friends reconnecting after years apart. As circulation improves, the endocrine system reacts. Testosterone pathways that have grown sluggish begin firing again. Hormones stabilize. The body starts producing energy instead of draining it. This is why so many men feel a quiet surge of motivation, a desire to move, walk, engage, participate in life. They begin waking up before their alarm. They begin feeling strong before breakfast. And in the moments that matter most, the intimate moments they feared were gone, the body starts responding with strength instead of hesitation. One man told me he woke up after 3 weeks and felt something he hadn't felt in nearly a decade. He said it wasn't the physical sensation that moved him. It was the realization that his body still remembered how to function. That realization brought him to tears, because for so many men, the deepest pain is not the physical decline, it's the fear of losing the part of themselves that made them feel alive, powerful, connected, confident. When the body responds again, even in the smallest way, that fear dissolves. And in its place comes hope. The longer a man stays consistent, the deeper the changes become. Blood vessels soften. Inflammation decreases. Nerves become more responsive. Muscles gain strength. Sleep grows deeper and more restorative. The body stops fighting itself and begins working in harmony. This harmony is what produces lasting vitality, the kind that radiates through every part of a man's life. But perhaps the most beautiful transformation happens emotionally. When a man feels strong in his body again, his spirit rises. He stands taller. He speaks with more certainty. He interacts with his partner differently. Not with fear or insecurity, but with warmth, presence, and confidence. He reconnects to his identity, not as the man he was, but as the man he still is, beneath the years, beneath the worry, beneath the quiet suffering. And yet, even this profound renewal is only part of the story. Because to fully understand why these changes last, and why they matter so deeply to every man over 60, you must confront a truth that very few people talk about openly. The truth about aging, masculinity, and the meaning we attach to strength. And that is exactly where we are headed next. 9. The truth about aging and masculinity. Most men are shocked when they finally hear the truth that almost no doctor says out loud. Aging doesn't take a man's strength. What takes it is the moment he starts believing he's no longer allowed to feel strong. That belief, quiet and heavy, settles into a man's heart long before his body shows any real decline. And once it settles, it changes everything. It changes how he sees himself in the mirror. It changes how he moves, how he loves, how he hopes. For many men over 60, the most painful part of getting older isn't the weakening of the body. It's the fear that they are fading from the world, becoming less needed, less capable, less masculine. That fear is far more damaging than any physical symptom. Growing older has never been the enemy. What truly breaks a man's spirit is the idea that vitality belongs only to the young. This message is everywhere, whispered through media, culture, even casual conversation. Men begin to internalize the belief that slowing down is inevitable, that desire should diminish, that energy should fade, that confidence should soften with time. But none of that is true. Masculinity is not measured by age, it is measured by presence, by intention, by the fire that still burns inside you, whether you are 20 or 80. I've spent more than 3 decades listening to men share the quiet grief they rarely speak about. The grief of feeling their identity slipping. The grief of feeling invisible. The grief of wanting to be intimate but no longer trusting their own body. Some describe it as losing their edge. Others call it losing themselves. But what they're truly losing is belief. Belief in their body's ability to respond, heal, and rise again. And when that belief fades, a man's world becomes smaller. He takes fewer risks. He laughs less. He avoids intimacy not because he lacks desire, but because he fears disappointment. But here is the truth every man deserves to know. Your body is still capable of producing strength, energy, and sexual power long into your 70s and 80s. Aging may slow certain processes, but it does not shut them down. Not unless you let it. Your blood vessels can still open. Your heart can still pump with force. Your hormones can still stabilize. Your mind can still sharpen. Your desire can still burn. And once a man understands this, truly understands it, something inside him begins to shift. He stops accepting decline as destiny. He stops carrying shame. He stops seeing himself as a man reaching his end, and instead sees himself as a man entering a new chapter, one where wisdom and vitality coexist. I've seen men rediscover their confidence after thinking it was gone forever. I've seen men rebuild their strength after years of believing their best days were behind them. I've seen marriages rekindle, relationships soften, and intimacy deepen, not because of youth, but because of renewed presence. When a man regains his vitality, he shows up differently in the world. He stands straighter. He speaks with more certainty. He laughs freely. He connects more naturally. Masculinity is not the stiffness of muscles or the intensity of youthful desire. It is the grounded, steady strength of a man who knows he still has purpose, still has passion, still has something to give. And that is why this morning ritual matters so deeply. It is not simply about erections or energy. It is about reclaiming the part of yourself that age tried to silence. It is about proving to yourself that the fire inside you never died. It was only waiting for oxygen. When the body responds again, when blood flow returns, when desire awakens, you realize aging never took your masculinity. It only hid it behind layers of neglect, fear, and misunderstanding. But the most powerful transformation happens not inside the body, but inside the heart, inside the relationships that define your life. Because when a man begins to feel strong again, something profound happens in the way he loves, touches, and connects. And that is where we must go next, into a truth just as important as physical strength: how renewed vitality can reignite intimacy, affection, and connection in ways that many couples have not felt in years. 10. Reigniting intimacy and connection. What shocks most men is not how much their bodies change with age, but how quietly their relationships change alongside it. Many men believe intimacy fades because desire naturally disappears over time, but the truth is far more painful. Intimacy fades when a man stops feeling like himself. When confidence weakens, when energy slips away, when the body no longer responds the way it once did, something fragile begins to break inside a relationship. And what breaks is not love, it is connection. A connection that once felt effortless now begins to feel uncertain, hesitant, distant. Not because the bond is gone, but because a man no longer feels present within his own body. I've listened to men describe moments that haunt them. Moments when they turned away from their partner not because they didn't want closeness, but because they feared disappointment. Moments when they avoided touch, avoided conversation, avoided vulnerability because they felt a quiet shame they could not put into words. These moments are not dramatic. They are subtle, almost invisible. But over time, they create a distance that neither partner understands how to bridge. A wife may sense something has changed, but she doesn't know why. A husband may want to explain, but the words never come. And so, they drift, not from lack of love, but from lack of confidence. What men often don't realize is that women rarely grieve the loss of performance. They grieve the loss of presence. They miss the man who once looked at them with certainty. They miss the warmth in his touch. They miss the energy he carried when he walked into a room. They miss the emotional connection that came from knowing he felt strong within himself. When a man loses that inner strength, intimacy does not disappear. It simply falls asleep. And the moment his vitality returns, intimacy wakes with it. I've seen couples who spent years feeling disconnected suddenly rediscover each other after the man regained his physical vitality. Not because their relationship was broken, but because the man felt alive again. Alive in a way that allowed him to show up fully, emotionally, and physically. One man told me that before his transformation, intimacy felt like a memory, something he cherished but believed he would never experience again. But after restoring his circulation, his energy, and his confidence, he found himself reaching for his wife's hand without hesitation, kissing her without fear, holding her without self-doubt. He told me, with tears in his eyes, "Doc, it feels like we're falling in love again, at 70. Another man, Harold, described the shift beautifully. He said that when his vitality returned, it wasn't just his body that changed, it was the way he looked at his wife. He saw her differently, not because she had changed, but because he had. He said he felt capable again, present again, connected again, and she felt it immediately. Their conversations deepened, their laughter returned. Their private moments became intimate not because of physical function alone, but because the emotional barrier between them had dissolved. This is the heart of what most men misunderstand. Intimacy is not simply about performance. It is about presence, confidence, warmth, and the feeling of being truly alive. When a man feels strong in his body, his heart opens. When his heart opens, his partner feels it. And when she feels it, the relationship transforms. Touch becomes meaningful again. Eye contact becomes electric. Simple gestures, holding hands, sitting close, sharing a quiet moment, become powerful reminders of the bond that has always been there, waiting to be awakened. And this awakening does more than strengthen the relationship. It strengthens the man himself. He walks with purpose. He speaks with certainty. He enters each day with a quiet pride that no one else fully understands but everyone can feel. This is the ripple effect of vitality. It does not stop with the physical. It spreads into every corner of life: marriage, family, self-worth, purpose, and joy. But even with all of this, the story is not finished. Because to truly understand the power of this transformation and how to keep it alive for years to come, we must bring everything together in one final message. One that will show you why this journey is not just about health, but about reclaiming your life in a way that many men never realize is possible. 11. Conclusion. A new beginning for your strength and vitality. When a man reaches 60, 70, or even 80, the world often tells him to slow down, to accept decline, to shrink quietly into the background of his own life. But if there is one lesson I want you to take from everything we've explored together, it's this. Aging does not diminish you. Neglect does. Doubt does. The belief that your strongest days are behind you does. But your body, remarkable, resilient, and far wiser than you give it credit for, still remembers how to thrive. It still remembers how to circulate blood with force, how to generate energy, how to respond to desire, how to carry strength. It only needs the chance to remember. The men who came before you, the men whose stories we've walked through, did not find transformation because they were lucky or exceptional. They found it because they finally chose to give their body what it had been craving for years. They showed up for themselves in the morning. They chose discipline over despair. They chose curiosity over fear. They chose hope. And hope, when fed daily with the right nourishment, becomes vitality. It becomes confidence. It becomes renewal. The lesson buried inside all their stories is simple but powerful. Your body is not your enemy. It is your oldest companion. It has carried you through every milestone, every loss, every joy, every challenge. It has done its best with what you've given it, even when what you've given it was far less than what it needed. And now, at this stage of life, your body is asking you for one thing: care. Not the desperate, last-minute kind, not the kind born from fear, but steady, devoted care that honors what it has done for you and what it can still do. When you offer your body this kind of care, even through something as simple as a morning ritual, it rewards you in ways that feel almost miraculous. The truth is that strength does not disappear with age. It changes form. When you were young, strength lived in your muscles, your speed, your intensity. Now, strength lives in your consistency, your awareness, your wisdom. The ability to choose health each morning is a strength younger men envy. You are not becoming less. You are becoming refined. You are becoming deliberate. You are becoming the version of yourself who understands what truly matters. Vitality that stems from purpose, energy that comes from discipline, and confidence that grows from honoring your body rather than apologizing for it. And as you reclaim this vitality, something else awakens: your presence. The kind of presence that changes the atmosphere of a room when you walk in. The kind of presence your partner feels before you say a word. The kind of presence that tells the world you are not finished, you are not fading, you are not stepping aside, you are stepping back into yourself. That is the essence of masculinity in your later years, not the reckless fire of youth, but the steady, warm flame that refuses to die out. So take this as your invitation to begin again, not because you are broken, but because you are ready. Ready to feel your strength returning. ready to feel your energy rising, ready to feel intimacy deepening, ready to feel enthusiasm for life pulsing through your veins. This is not the end of your journey as a man. It is the moment where your wisdom and your vitality meet, where you step into a version of yourself that is more grounded, more alive, and more powerful than you ever imagined. Remember this lesson. Your body does not age in one direction. It responds to what you give it. It mirrors your choices. And every morning, it gives you a chance to choose renewal. You do not need to live quietly. You do not need to surrender your desire, your strength, or your identity. You only need to give your body the opportunity to rise for you again. So tomorrow morning, when you stand in your kitchen, when you prepare the simple ritual that has helped so many men reclaim their lives, know this: you are not just feeding your body. You are feeding your future. You are choosing vitality. You are choosing connection. You are choosing the man you still are and the man you are becoming. This is your new beginning, and it starts the moment you decide you deserve it. If this message spoke to you in any way, if it opened your eyes, reminded you of your strength, or gave you even a spark of hope, I want to ask you for one simple favor. Show your support. It helps more than you can imagine. Take a moment right now to like this video so more men your age can finally hear the truth about their bodies and reclaim their vitality. And share it with someone you care about, a friend, a brother, a father, or any man who deserves to feel alive again. You may not realize it, but a single share can change another man's life. And I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me what part of this message resonated with you the most. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Your experience could inspire another man who feels alone in his struggle. If you believe in the work we're doing and want to help this message reach even more people, you can also consider supporting the channel through a small donation. Every contribution helps us create more content, more guidance, and more hope for men around the world. Thank you for being here. Your strength deserves to be seen.